In this video, I'm going to share the 5 biggest goal setting mistakes that cause freelancers to fail. So let's jump in. The first mistake is setting too specific of annual goals without actually thinking of how you're going to get to them. So in other words, if you set some goal that's like, I'm going to make $300,000 this year, and last year you made $40,000, and you just leave it at that, what is very, very likely to happen is you're going to kind of naturally reverse engineer what your income milestones would be along the way. And sooner or later, see that you're not on track to hit that goal and become incredibly demotivated. So for example, if you said that you were going to make 300K, if it's March 1st and you've total brought in like $3,000, you can see that you actually should have brought in $75,000 by then if you were doing it in a linear way, and thus you're going to feel really demotivated and you're going to probably throw your hands up in the air and give up. There's research that suggests that setting annual goals like this actually doesn't work very well, and that humans are only really able to conceptualize a quarter of actions at a time, and that something so far out as a year is really hard to feel motivated to work towards and have like concrete steps. So what's been working well for me that I would recommend you experiment with if it resonates is setting annual themes, which I'll talk about more in a minute, and asking yourself what needs to happen to work towards that theme. So if I ask you, what's the theme of 2024 for you? What's going to set up your business most for success? What's the skill that if you could build, or the category of skills that if you could build would have your 2025 looking really, really great? For most freelancers, it's going to be lead generation as a rule. If you could end 2024 being a pro at getting leads who turn into clients, you can do anything. You can grow your business into anything you want. Other freelancers who are a bit newer, it might be their technical skills. It might be their offer. So what is it for you? What would be your theme of the year that you can create your quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily goals based on? Mistake number 2 is setting goals that require peak efficiency and productivity and energy all the time. The result of this is, of course, that you feel demotivated and like you're failing or not living up to what you need to do when life happens and you get tired or you get sick or you get thrown off. By setting goals that require that you be operating at like 10 out of 10 all the time, you are set up for failure. My opinion and recommendation is to set more conservative lead measure based goals that you can consistently hit and exceed, then set really ambitious goals that you're going to fall short of. Because in general, it feels much nicer to surpass your goals than it does to fall short of your goals. And we'll talk about lead measure goals because that is mistake number 3. So mistake number 3 is setting big annual outcome-based goals instead of looking at lead measure goals. So outcome-based goals would be like that $300,000 a year thing. A theme and lead measure-based goal would be like, let's say, okay, if I want to make 300 grand a year, I need to probably work with however many clients. If you charge $3,000 per project, you would need to work with 100 clients. If you charge 6,000, you need to work 50, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you know that if you get really good at generating leads, that you will then be able to charge more and earn more and do more work, and thus set yourself up to earn 300K. So the lead measure goal would be, if you've decided that your theme is to focus on building your lead gen skills, the lead measure goal for me is usually how many hours I've spent in a given week doing that thing. So in your case, if it's like, I want to get really good at getting clients, you would want to be tracking, if you're doing the lead measure approach, you'd want to be tracking your time that you're spending on marketing, on outreach, on learning if you don't actually know what to do yet. The first step would be learning and then implementation. One note is that people often get stuck in learning because it's a little bit more comfortable and within the comfort zone. So if you're going this route where you're focusing on lead gen, make sure to prioritize, once ready, spending the time on action. And probably the ready threshold is closer to where you are right now than you think. A lot of us can get stuck in perfectionism, feeling that we're not air quotes ready until we've done blah, 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 and then we never take action. But I digress. Mistake number 4 is not celebrating lead measure successes. A lot of people give up on their goals because they're too far in the future and they don't see how their individual actions are connecting with their eventual success and eventual reaching the goal. I see this a lot in the accelerator community, where somebody will come onto a coaching session feeling kind of down in the dumps and feeling like their marketing strategy is not working, or it's not working as well as they want because they didn't like smash it out of the gates. But when I see that and I see them showing up consistently, I get excited because I know that eventual success is not the result of smashing it out of the park on the first try. Instead, it's simply the result of trying and 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 continuing to try until you're successful. So every week that I see somebody having a hard time, but still showing up and still trying, I get more and more excited, because most people will not tolerate repeated failure and will not push through it. And the ones that do are the ones who succeed. So by celebrating the lead measure successes, you set yourself up for continuing to try until it works. And so what I mean by celebrating a lead measure success is, if you commit to yourself that you want to spend 3 hours a week on marketing, every time you spend 1 hour on marketing, that is a success, and that is a huge win, and you should celebrate it. There's science. I'd have to find it. I wrote it down to find it. I didn't find it, so I can't point you to it right now. It might be BJ Fogg from Tiny Habits, but there's science that says that celebrating your small successes on the way and saying that's like me and like patting yourself on the back is the kind of like a cornerstone of habit change. So it's worth considering. Every time you show up and you spend an hour on the thing you said you were going to spend an hour on, celebrate it. That's a big win, because most people don't do that. And if you keep doing it, you will be successful. Mistake number 5 is the biggest one, which is not actually taking action, making a big plan for the year, but not actually changing the behavior. Because one thing I think we can all agree on is that if you want to increase your income by a significant amount as a freelancer, you can't just continue to reactively do client work like you did last year. Because if you keep doing the same stuff you did last year, you're probably going to get pretty similar results as you did last year. And of course, the better you get at your craft, the more you knock it out of the park for your clients, the more you will naturally increase demand and thus rates. So I'm not saying that if you simply show up and do good work, you're doomed to poor rates forever. But I am saying that if you want dramatic results within a year, like doubling your rate, doubling your client flow, hiring somebody new, big changes versus like 10 to 15 to 20% growth each year, it does require big action. And if you want different results, you got to do different stuff. So there's some quote that I heard recently that was like, show me your calendar and I'll tell you what your values are. Something like that. I'm probably butchering it. It's all well and good to have your goals for the year, but those goals need to make it onto your calendar. The actions that lead to the goals, aka the lead measures from the earlier tip, need to actually find the space on your calendar and then need to actually be honored. Because sometimes we put the thing on our calendar and then we're slow to wake up in the morning and get a slow start, and we got angry emails from clients, and then we put off that day, and then we say we'll do it tomorrow, and then tomorrow never comes. So the solution here is to put the events on the calendar and get some accountability to actually do them. Accountability can look like booking FocusMate sessions, or even better would be getting an accountability buddy. The problem with FocusMate, or even with the Accelerator community, is that these things still are kind of self-motivated. With me running this group coaching community, like, I just don't have the bandwidth to keep tabs on every single person and kick everyone's ass to get them to come and that sort of thing. And that's the real value of one-on-one accountability through an accountability buddy. Committing to them that you're going to work on something and then having a check-in with them every week can be huge. So with those mistakes in mind, here is what I recommend. The goal setting process that I really like is essentially first setting annual themes. So in your case, if you want to learn how to get clients this year, you would have lead gen as your annual theme. And then from there, setting quarterly goals. So big, meaty things that I want to do this quarter that will move me towards that goal. And from there, breaking those down into tasks on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis. Because when you have a quarterly goal that you know how to get to, it's pretty easy to reverse engineer that into monthly and weekly tasks and stuff. So in your case, if you know you want to prioritize lead gen, but you don't even know what to do yet, maybe your Q1 goal would be finding a course you like, which we have some, by the way, at DYF. Finding a course you like, planning your whole action steps, and starting to take action. That could be your quarterly goal. And then you know when you're breaking that down that the monthly goal needs to be finding the course. And from there, figuring out how much time it's going to take to go through it, figuring out what the action plan is, that kind of thing, and creating those goals as you go, versus trying to like plan 12 months of actions in advance, which wouldn't be that realistic. So hopefully you found this helpful. Hope you have an awesome year, and see you soon.